Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people as the traditional custodians on this land of which Transform Live ANZ is taking place. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. A big thank you to Transform for inviting me to speak today and to all of you for being here, especially for the first session of the day. I'm genuinely impressed. Think about the last brand you saw today. Were you flicking through Instagram on your way here? Or maybe you saw a logo on one of the big screens you passed along the harbour. What made you remember it? Was it the tagline or the typeface? Was it the logo, the colour, or the motion? Doo-doo. We're missing the audio. In this day and age, we all walk around with smartphones equipped with high-definition screens that are just crying out for moving content. I'd be very surprised if anyone here doesn't have a smartphone in their pocket. Maybe it's in your hands. If it is, I'll just assume you're posting about how excited you are for this talk. To add to phones, screens are everywhere around us and they're just impossible to ignore. We've got smart screens in shopping malls, outdoor digital screens, TVs, laptops, devices, etc. The list goes on. And that's where motion branding comes in. So today, I want to share why static brands should be a thing of the past and why I believe motion should be a very important part of what brands are embracing first and foremost, rather than it being an afterthought. My name is Mike Tosetto, and I'm the director and founder of Never Sit Still, an animation studio based in Sydney. It's motion branding which is at the core of what we do, although we work on a huge variety of projects, including opening titles, ad campaigns, 3D billboards, and more. You can see some of what we do up on screen. At Never Sit Still, we say, if it moves on screen, we make it. I'm very, very lucky to work with an incredibly talented team of 20 Never Sit Stillians. You can see some of our friendly faces up on screen working away in our studio just up the road in Surrey Hills. Our team consists of designers, illustrators, animators, and producers. My co-director and I handle the business side of things so the team can focus on what they do best, which is great creative work. For the past 9 years, we've specialized in bringing brands to life with movement, and we've had the privilege of building motion systems for some of the world's most recognizable and iconic companies. I want to show you what motion branding is, why it matters, and how it can completely shift the way that you think about brand identity. Let's take a step back. So think about a brand as a person. Just like people, brands have personalities, they have values, they have traits, and a way of speaking. It's all of these qualities together that makes them recognizable. They can be confident or quiet, serious or playful, but it's how they behave that tells us who they really are. The best brands, like great people we befriend and want to spend time with, are the ones that feel authentic. When a brand feels genuine and it stands for something meaningful, people align with it, financially, emotionally, and sometimes even fanatically. Let's try something together. I want you to imagine some brands for the categories that I'm about to mention. Think of a luxury fashion brand. Think of your favorite fast food brand. And think of a high energy sports brand. Okay. I'd put money on it that some of you imagined these exact brands. I don't need to show them in their brand colors or mention their names. It's just an example of how powerful branding can be. Of course, for any brand to succeed, its audience needs to have positive experiences every single time they connect with it, much like we have with our friends or other people we align with, such as great leaders, politicians, and even some of our favorite celebrities. But here's the thing, we don't really understand someone until we see how they move, their body language, their gestures, their energy. And much like people, brands really come alive when they start to move. So we speak to each other using words, but we might not always be able to speak the same language as someone else. We can communicate far more effectively when we add body language and our expressions and our gestures. Remember that time that you've been in another country where language is a huge barrier to communication, but you managed to understand someone with body language alone. You might not be the menu, but you can point to what you want to eat. You might not understand the street signs, but you can understand the body language that shows you the way. Through a few gestures, nods, and smiles, you manage to figure it out, and that's because movement is a universal language. I've got Italian heritage, and I can tell you, Italians' hands are louder than their voices. So while some brands have been around for generations and have an army of brand champions, others are merely trying to establish themselves and find their feet. Either way, brands need strategy to help them figure out who they are, where they're going, and how they'll be perceived. Strategy helps define a brand's values, its purpose and vision, and its positioning. We can think of these things as a brand's DNA. Motion branding, which is what we do at Never Sit Still, is about how we bring a brand's DNA to life in motion. We get to know a brand and give it character through movement, and that can make it more exciting, more engaging, and sometimes even emotional. When a client engages Never Sit Still, they're looking to us to create a motion system for their brand. This can include all or some of the assets that you see on screen: logos, titles, transitions, lower thirds, etc., etc. So a motion system is made up of 4 components. We come up with motion principles, we create a motion toolkit, motion guidelines, and we love making a brand film. So think of it as raising a brand, born safely and healthy, raised with strong values, and sent off into the world to make us proud. We just really hope it behaves when it leaves home by not making poor font choices or hanging around with the wrong colors. So we're experts in motion branding at Never Sit Still, and we bring strategy and visual identity to life with meaningful motion. By getting to know a brand's values, its manifesto, its tone of voice, and what it wants the world to know about it, we ask ourselves questions like, does the typography glide? Does it bounce? Or does it flip? What tempo feels right for these elements? Should they be moving fast, or should they be moving slowly? Should they be confident, strong, and trustworthy, or soft, gentle, and endearing? How does the logo resolve? And this one is really crucial. Think about how many ads you see that finish or start with a moving logo. That particular moment can reveal far more about a brand than you might realize. Here's one that we worked on for Stake, the first Australian trading platform that made investing in the US stock market easy, accessible, and fast. The logo itself was inspired by a stock ticker, which are those old paper roll machines that printed share prices in real time before the internet existed. Here's a quick look at an original stock ticker with its long paper roll. And here you can see the logo in motion captures that rhythmic, energetic, continuous movement of the paper roll, expressing the energy of the US stock market, a nod to the past for a modern trading platform. So to answer all those questions about how a brand should move, we get stuck into an extensive exploration phase. We push, we pull, we prod and poke the brand design elements, the static elements, to work out what works and what doesn't. Just look at this array of logo tests we did for Coinbase. It's a tiny slice of what we produced, and it's really only one that makes the final cut. So our motion systems, they start with motion principles, rules and behaviors that align with the brand's strategy and personality. From there, we create motion mechanics, which are a series of movements that link back to the motion principles. So let's say a motion principle is growth-oriented. The motion mechanics of that principle might be upward motion or scaling and zooming. And you can see the motion mechanics or the movement of those motion mechanics happening by what those circles are performing that I've just mentioned. Or the principle might be future-focused, so the mechanics could be forward movement or moving with intent. Another principle could be always evolving, where the mechanics are never stopping or dynamic motion. Looking at them all together, we've just defined a series of movements that are grounded in strategy that truly reflect the ethos of a brand. So depending on the size or scale of a brand, we can continue to develop both motion principles and motion mechanics if needed, or as needed, whatever it be. Some brands don't need this many principles. They might need 1 or 2, and some need more, like 4 or 5. So once we know how a brand moves, we deliver motion guidelines and a motion toolkit that is practical for other teams to work with and scalable across any screen and any platform. Only the most effective results make it above the surface, and what you see out in the wild is only the tip of the iceberg. The rest of it, like those Coinbase tests, ends up on the cutting room floor. So we make decisions about every move, and they're not about decoration. They're about making motion that moves with purpose. When done right, they form a motion system, a framework that keeps a brand moving with clarity and consistency across every touch point. From a loading animation to a giant outdoor screen. So what is it that makes a brand's motion unique and gives it cut through among all the other moving brands out there? Differentiation. Brands in motion have a point of difference by steering away from the overused motion graphic styles that absolutely saturate and dominate the market. Recognition. A brand becomes far more recognizable when it has its own distinct motion language. Engagement. People engage far more deeply with a brand when it moves in a way that feels true to the brand's essence. Versatility. While motion branding defines a system, it also builds a foundation that can flex and evolve with the brand as it grows and develops. Consistency. Brands remain coherent across every touch point, recognizable wherever they move. And relevance. A moving brand stays alive and relevant in today's world. I want to show you an example of our motion branding process in action for a brand new project that is fresh off the press. Today is the first time I'm sharing it, and it's one that our team is incredibly proud of, and I'm really excited by this piece of work. So we recently did some work for an emerging football club in the United States called Atletico Dallas. They're a brand new team set to join the USL Championship in 2027, shortly after next year's FIFA World Cup, which is also happening in the United States for anybody that doesn't follow the football. We collaborated on this project with a fantastic design studio in San Francisco called Monica, and they developed the brand alongside a Dallas-based agency called Modest Works. The club is built on 3 core pillars: community, mythology, and place. Atletico Dallas is deeply rooted in Hispanic and Latino communities of North Texas, where football is a very important part of culture, identity, and everyday life. The crest of the club depicts the legend of an eternal clash between the wolf and the snake, a symbol of respect, resilience, and the fight within. The wolf embodies cunning and collective strength, while the snake brings speed, precision, and danger. The color palette is drawn from the land itself with natural materials like Texas topaz, Blackland crude, and silver ore, giving the brand a strong sense of place and authenticity. So taking the time to understand those foundations allowed us to connect with the values that are at the very heart of this football club. We are pioneers, a reflection of the true Texan spirit of building something from nothing. This is a club shaped by ambition and an unwavering drive to forge its own path. We are lovers of the beautiful game. For this community, football is far more than just a sport. It brings people together, giving them a sense of belonging and pride. And we honor the history and tradition of football. Atletico Dallas may be new, but it respects the heritage of the game, honoring its rituals and tradition as it begins its own chapter. So I returned from Portugal a couple of days ago. I landed in Sydney on Sunday, where my son played in a football tournament. In that part of the world, football is life. And we were very fortunate to catch a game with Benfica played another team at Benfica Stadium in Lisbon. The energy was electric, and the home team absolutely erupted when their beloved team scored a cracking goal. So a major part of this brief was to capture that same energy in our motion system. Our role was to design the motion for the stadium screens to celebrate key moments just like that one, enhancing the entire stadium experience. By immersing ourselves in the club's foundations and values, essentially that brand's DNA, which I spoke about earlier, we could then define the motion principles to bring the brand identity to life. So we defined 4 motion principles: dynamic, tense, human, and raw. Dynamic is about movement that's energetic and determined. Tense brings motion loaded with suspense and anticipation. Human is expressed through movement that is full of character and emotion. And raw embraces a quality that is gritty and tactile. Knowing our principles, we connect motion mechanics to each one. Dynamic could include super quick cuts, continuous movement, and motion blur. Tense could include different styles of motion like slow-mo, bullet time, double time, and stylistically close-ups of bodies in motion. Human could include offset motion or handycam movement to feel more organic, and stylistically collage or mixed media to feel more physical than digital. And raw could include time lapses of the landscape, extreme close-ups, and imperfect unpolished textures. Once we have those motion mechanics that I was talking about, we jump into that R&D phase where we cast net wide to push our exploration. What you see on screen is just a small selection of our early testing. So our R&D process is collaborative from the start. We involve the agency, we involve the client, and our team is involved as well. We truly believe that a project benefits from having everybody bringing their collective expertise to the table, so we uncover the answers together. No grand reveal or ta-da moments. So as we explored this project, it became clear that an unconventional brand needed a solution to match. We all agreed that developing an asset library would be a far more suitable direction. A large suite of assets designed to work with the logo, typography, and color palette focus less on beautiful animation curves and more about capturing the brand's energy and persona. The assets are organized into these 5 categories: location, ephemera, nature, animal, and 3D assets. Location roots the brand in real places and landmarks of North Texas. Ephemera acknowledges the rich history and shows the club has a story connected to the past. Nature evokes the raw energy and elemental power of the region. Animal content expresses the club's spirit through the legend of the wolf and the snake. And building 3D assets from scratch makes it possible to create symbols that are completely unique to Atletico Dallas across all of these 5 categories. Here's an overview of the asset library at the point of handover. As the brand evolves, this library will continue to grow. This brand isn't about super slick, silky smooth animation. I really love that stuff, but it just wasn't right for this brand. So instead, we developed ultra snappy transitions and editing techniques, which I'm going to call you now. We gave them names: Splice, Negative Flash, and Container Flash. So Splice is all about splicing assets together with quick and snappy hard cuts for high energy and pace, and you can see that one on the left there. The next one, which is Negative Flash Transitions, combines assets with scaling effects and displacement to make dynamic bursts of intensity. And then I'll get a little bit closer over here so I can read this one. The one on the right we call the Container Flash Transition, which uses layered crops of the assets in different size containers, creating tension and contrast. So something a bit different. But of course, we needed to define the movement for the logo, typography, and animation. It wouldn't be a motion system if we didn't do that. But we kept it aligned with the high energy style that we'd already established, stripped back and charged up with the fire of Atletico Dallas. We love producing a brand film as part of a motion system. They capture a brand spirit in a short, punchy reel that expresses the brand in all its glory. So I just have to say that this is a really big moment right now. I've been working from afar when I was in Portugal with our team to get this particular video finished for this presentation. So I hope you like it. Thank you. Super proud of that one. So why does motion branding even matter? It's because motion outperforms static content tenfold in regards to engagement, retention, and emotional impact. Brands are fighting for our attention, and it's motion that earns it. Studies show moving visuals are far more memorable than static ones. You're actually more likely to remember what you had for remember a short animation than what you had for breakfast. In a feed full of static posts, motion builds distinction and it makes people stop scrolling. It's the difference between recognizing a logo and feeling a brand. Motion also crosses borders. We work with international companies that need to communicate with audiences with many languages. And like I mentioned earlier, motion is universal. Try this with me. Think of a brand you love and picture its logo. Now imagine how it would move. Does it slide? Does it spin? Does it stretch? Is it moving fast? Is it moving slowly? The fact that you can instinctively imagine this shows how naturally we connect a familiar brand with motion. And again, that's the power of this medium. So I have to touch on AI, which is absolutely everywhere right now. It's here to stay, but I just want to take a second to tie it back to what I've been talking about. So brands have personality, and it's motion that is their body language. The brands that resonate with us are the ones that feel authentic and they make us feel something. That's exactly what it means to be human. We're embracing AI, it never sits still, but we don't believe it can replace what we do. It can mimic it closely, but it's our imagination, our creativity, and our human touch. That's irreplaceable, and that's the point of difference right now. The future, who knows, but at least for now. So we've covered the why, the what, and the how. Now here it is in motion, practicing what we preach.
We're Never Sit Still, an animation and design studio with motion branding at our core. We use animation to breathe life into your static brand, making it more engaging, impactful, and ready for the digital age. Take our brand, for example. Here's how it works. It all begins with research and development. We learn about your brand's values and personality. Then, we dive into all the assets that make your brand unique. We draw upon our rich understanding of animation to investigate ways it can move. We push, pull, prod, and play. Your brand wants to move. We'll help figure out how. Next, we develop motion principles. These guidelines ensure consistency everywhere your brand is seen, from small screens to colossal. You'll get a library of motion assets to hit the ground running, plus tools to enhance and amplify your brand's impact. It's not just motion. How your brand sounds is crucial too. Bespoke music and audio creates a powerful association, filling a brand with feeling. And we'll help you find the right voice to lend personality, trust, and warmth. Finally, it all comes together in a brand film, an expressive, engaging video that embodies your brand in motion, a reference, a showcase, and a gold standard of how your brand lives now and into the future. Your brand in motion.
Thank you. So just a quick shout out to the guys from Smith & Weston for doing that music and audio for us. They're actually going to be speaking a little bit later today, so that's not a talk that you'd want to miss. So there you have it, an overview of how we bring brands to life with motion branding. We genuinely believe that motion brings emotion, and that ties right into our company's purpose, which is we make motion to move people. The future is moving, and that's why I believe brands should never sit still. Thank you very much.